Beijing gets ready for U.S. President Donald Trump's visit. Talks between Donald Trump and President Xi Jinping could cover topics ranging from the Iran war to Taiwan. And Secretary for Transport and Logistics Mabel Chan explains to lawmakers about developments in regulating ride-hailing platforms. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. In anticipation of U.S. President Donald Trump's arrival in China tomorrow, 2 hotels near the U.S. Embassy in Beijing have ceased accepting new reservations, with reports indicating they may serve as the temporary residence of U.S. President during his stay. Trump is expected to visit the Temple of Heaven on Thursday afternoon, with the iconic landmark set to be closed to the public from Wednesday to Thursday. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Service at the U.S. Embassy in Beijing remains normal, with U.S. President Donald Trump set to arrive in the nation's capital on Wednesday. But security was strengthened around the Four Seasons Hotel Beijing and Kempinski Hotel Beijing Yangsha Center, both located just 10 minutes away from the embassy. Guests were seen needing to confirm their identities before entering the premises. A large presence of police vehicles also surrounded the hotels, while armed police patrols in the area became a common sight. According to both hotels' websites, neither have available rooms between Tuesday and Friday this week and are not accepting any new reservations. Several reports by foreign media noted the hotels may be the U.S. president's residence of choice during his visit in the capital. A hotel guest said they were notified by hotel staff that they could only conduct security checks for them after 6 p.m., owing to special arrangements, and were asked whether they would like to switch to another hotel. Meanwhile, the White House announced that in addition to top-level meetings between Beijing and Washington, President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump will be visiting the Temple of Heaven together on Thursday. The Temple of Heaven Park displayed notices that it will be closed to the public from Wednesday to Thursday. Built in 1420 during the Ming Dynasty, the Temple of Heaven is the world's largest and best-preserved royal sacrificial altar complex, and was listed as a World Heritage Site in 1998. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
U.S. President Donald Trump will begin his state visit to China tomorrow. He says topics to be discussed in Beijing include arms sales to Taiwan and the case of former media tycoon Jimmy Lai. Beijing says they will not make concessions on the issues. Reportedly, top executives from companies including Tesla, Apple, and Boeing will accompany Trump on the trip. At the invitation of President Xi Jinping, U.S. President Donald Trump will embark on his China trip on Wednesday through Friday. On Thursday, Xi and Trump are scheduled to hold a bilateral meeting in Beijing. U.S. officials reviewed the 2 heads of state will discuss trade, tariff, rare earth, AI, and the situation in Iran. Speaking in the White House on Monday, Trump reiterated his rapport with President Xi and his high hopes on the China trip.
I have a great relationship with President Xi. We're doing a lot of business, but it's smart business. We used to be taken advantage of for years with our previous presidents, and now we're doing great with China. We make a lot of money with China. I respect him a lot, and hopefully he respects me.
Trump says he believes Xi also hoped to see tensions surrounding Iran and the Strait of Hormuz resolved. When asked about jailed ex-media tycoon Jimmy Lai, Trump says the issue will be on the agenda.
Jimmy Lai, caused a lot of bedlam. I don't know. And I'd like to see him get out, too. So I'll bring him up again. I have brought him up.
Beijing earlier described Lai as a key figure involved in anti-China and Hong Kong unrest and urged foreign countries to respect China's sovereignty and Hong Kong's rule of law. According to reports, a bipartisan group of U.S. senators last week urged Trump to move ahead quickly with a proposed $14 billion arms package for Taiwan, including air defense missiles. Trump confirmed he would discuss U.S. arms sales with Xi.
Do you think we should still be selling them weapons? The United States.
Well, I'm going to have that discussion with President Xi. President Xi would like us not to, and I'll have that discussion. That's one of the many things I'll be talking about.
Mainland Chinese analysts said developments in China-U.S. relations would have a major impact on the international landscape, with Taiwan remaining the central issue in this round of high-level engagement and one revolving China's core interests where Beijing would not compromise. An editorial in the People's Daily described Taiwan as a red line that shall not be crossed and the biggest point of risk in Sino-US relations, urging Washington to honor their commitments and safeguard global stability. Bloomberg reported that the White House had invited senior executives from multiple major U.S. companies to join the delegation. They include Elon Musk of Tesla, Apple's Tim Cook, as well as executives from Boeing, Goldman Sachs, Blackstone, Visa, and MasterCard. Trump is reportedly seeking trade and procurement agreements with China during the visit. Reports say NVIDIA's Jensen Huang, meanwhile, will not join the trip. Reuters cited sources as saying that the White House has chosen to focus the visit on agriculture and commercial aviation rather than semiconductors. Despite Trump's imminent China trip, the U.S. government announced sanctions against 4 Hong Kong-based companies. That's for having allegedly aided Iran's shipment of oil to China. The U.S. Treasury blacklisted 3 people and 9 companies, including 4 based in Hong Kong and 4 in the United Arab Emirates and 1 in Oman. They were said to have helped Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps sell and ship its allotment of Iranian oil to China using front companies. Earlier, the U.S. also sanctioned 3 Chinese companies for allegedly providing satellite images to assist Iran's military actions. Beijing says it resolutely opposes the move, saying the priority now is to prevent the escalation of the conflict instead of using the war to smear other countries. The government has yet to announce the number of ride-hailing permits in its latest submission to the Legislative Council on the regulation of ride-hailing platforms. This, as Secretary for Transport and Logistics Mabel Chan emphasized, authorities currently have no preference on setting a specific limit for such permits. Timothy Lee reports.
In its latest submission to LegCo on regulating ride-hailing platforms, the government mentioned suggestions of issuing between 10,000 to 15,000 designated permits. This as ride-hailing platform Uber earlier sent its submission to the city's legislative body, noting there were over 30,000 active ride-hailing platform drivers over the past year, so 15,000 permits will be less than half of that. The company expects that under such conditions, around 40% of passengers will not be able to hail a ride during peak hours, adding that fares could also increase by 70%. The platform suggests that the government could adjust the proposed mechanism to include an automatic permit issuance system which prioritizes active ride-hailing platform drivers. However, at the Legislative Council Transport Panel meeting, some members expressed concern about issuing too many licenses. A lawmaker said there's already an oversupply during off-peak hours. Secretary for Transport and Logistics Mabel Chan said there will be a monitoring mechanism to flexibly regulate the supply. Chan said the quota cannot be too small, otherwise residents will still face difficulty in hailing a ride, and the service quality will be difficult to guarantee. However, the quota cannot be too large at once so as to not impact the traffic load. She said the government also needs to protect the livelihoods of existing drivers. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
A couple who took their 2 children storm chasing in Taiwan during Super Typhoon Ragasa last year faced a joint charge of child neglect. Today, they're spared a criminal conviction after prosecutors agreed to resolve the case with a bind-over order. The case happened on September 23rd last year. At around 3 p.m. that day, as the family was set to leave, waves swept the mother and the 5-year-old son into the sea. The father jumped into the water trying to save them, leaving the daughter alone on the shore. The trio were later rescued by a nearby boatman. The mother was once in a critical condition. At the Eastern Magistrates Court this morning, the 41-year-old father and 38-year-old mother on the joint charge of child neglect were placed on a 3-year bind-over of $2,000. If they commit similar offenses again, they will face harsher penalties. The observatory recorded 31.6 degrees Celsius today afternoon, marking the highest temperature of the year. The anticyclone loft has brought clear skies and scorching heat in the afternoon. In Chengquano, the mercury reached 32.7 degrees. The forecaster expects the sweltering weather to continue tomorrow, anticipating the highest temperature to reach around 32 degrees. Some senior British cabinet ministers have urged Prime Minister Keir Starmer to set out a timetable for his resignation. But there are splits within the cabinet over the issue. Over 70 Labour members of Parliament out of the party total of 403 have called on Starmer either to resign or to announce a departure date. They include Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, whom Starmer earlier appointed as the first ever Muslim to serve in such a position. Starmer is facing mounting pressure to resign after Labour lost almost 1,500 council seats in England and surrendered control of around 40 local councils. Starmer's government has also struggled to deliver promised economic growth. He said while the local election results were very tough, he would not be walking away. The World Health Organization reported a total of 9 cases linked to Hantavirus-hit cruise ship MV Hantavirus. 3 fatalities included a Dutch couple and a German passenger. Hantavirus-hit cruise ship MV Hantavirus completed its evacuation of passengers from Tenerife on Monday. The final group of 28 evacuees, including passengers and crew members, disembarked after the ship docked at the port of Granadilla and was subsequently transferred to Tenerife South Airport for a flight to the Netherlands, while another 26 crew members on board the vessel continued their voyage to Rotterdam. The crews will undergo comprehensive disinfection. Spain says among the 14 Spanish nationals currently under isolation at a Madrid hospital, 1 individual has returned a preliminary positive PCR test result for hantavirus. Another latest confirmed case is a French female passenger who disembarked the vessel the previous day and returned to France with worsening conditions. One of the 18 repatriated Americans is suspected of infection after initial testing, while another U.S. citizen showed light symptoms. Both are being isolated. Overseeing the evacuation efforts in Spain, the World Health Organization's Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says this is not another COVID outbreak, but recommends individuals who have disembarked from the vessel undergo quarantine to minimize transmission risks.
The passengers, you're now in good hands. We were very worried if you stayed longer in the ship, the situation could have been difficult. And the guidance is clear. It's 42 days of isolation from May 10. May 10 was yesterday. And it could be facility or it could be home.
Andes virus is a rodent-borne hantavirus endemic to South America and the only known hantavirus capable of limited human-to-human transmission. The European Union says the outbreak poses little risk to the region after assessment. A chain restaurant group will provide soft meals to private hospital restaurants with the aim of expanding the service to public hospitals in the future. This restaurant group has been providing soft meals to over 150 nursing homes since last year and will expand to the Baptist Hospital restaurant this year. 2 new dishes have been launched: abalone and sea cucumber mix, red bean longevity peach bun, and custard bun. These will be available at the restaurants and fast food outlets. Over 100 nursing home seniors, their families, and volunteers were the first to try them. Secretary for Labor and Welfare Chris Sun said, as of the end of last year, 13,600 elderly people had benefited from the soft meal service. Many free apps and websites rely on advertising to survive. But some pop-up ads have been flagged for grabbing attention through scare tactics. With that, a lawmaker questions why the government does not have dedicated laws to regulate malpractices in online advertising. Recently, there are concerns over online ads that try to attract clicks through alarming lines like warning or beware, claiming that users' apps are outdated or their storage is full. Veteran advertising professional Wang Wai-kin says, while some of such ads can highlight product features in a positive light, they can also be exploiting fear to trigger immediate action. Major brands generally avoid these tactics. He adds that these days, anyone with an email and credit cards can run such ads. Advertisers can target audiences by age and browsing habits, while platforms like Google handle content approval. Honorary President of the Hong Kong Information Technology Federation, Francis Fong, says such content slips through moderation because advertisers can tweak wording to bypass AI filters, leading to a gap between automated reviews and real user perception. Currently, relevant regulations are scattered in Hong Kong. Broadcast ads fall under the Broadcasting Ordinance, while ads involving alcohol, tobacco, or medicine are governed by other laws. Online advertising remains largely unregulated. Lawmaker Johnny Ng says 80 to 90% of scams originate from problematic ads. He says social media platforms should share responsibility by removing harmful ads at the source. With people now spending more time online than watching TV, he says there is no reason there are no relevant laws. Many people love pets, and there are about 500,000 pet cats and dogs in the city, with about 1 in 10 families having pets. But many people feel it is very expensive to bring the pets to see the vets. Professor Vanessa Bars, the Dean of City University's Jockey Club College of Veterinary Medicine and Life Sciences, explains the issue on TVB's Straight Talk program.
Well, it's certainly not more expensive than human healthcare, but if you think about it, the way that we have evolved with our pets, most pet owners want a similar level of care for their pets as they do for their children. And unfortunately, having a veterinary clinic to provide those services, it needs to function like a full-service human hospital for animals. And there are a lot of, that's very expensive without the benefit of government subsidy. There's no Medicare for pets, there's no Medicaid, and also the uptake of pet insurance is low. If you look at the type of equipment that you need to have in a veterinary hospital to provide those services, you need a digital X-ray. A lot of clinics now have got CTs. Some of the specialty clinics have got MRI machines. All clinics will have their own in-house laboratory services. They'll have an intensive care ward, a hospital ward. So those, these things are very expensive to buy, to maintain. Labour costs are also expensive.
Some humanoid robots that recently competed in a half marathon in Beijing have now been put to work picking tea leaves in a plantation in Fujian.
右边去一点。
In a tea plantation in Fuding City in Fujian Province, several robots that took part as athletes in the Beijing Yizhuang humanoid robot half marathon are now working alongside humans in tea picking and processing. Among them is the robot Lightning, which previously broke the best human half marathon record. It is responsible for transporting tea leaves along mountainous paths, handling rough terrain with ease. Inside the factory, other robots assist with tea roasting. Engineering teams are using this initiative to collect data, aiming to address labor shortages in the tea industry in the future. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.